you ever heard the word hazard and risk before? Or hospitality industry? Or eliminating risk or hazard in hospitality industry? Well, if you have, you are aware about risk management. It always talks about risk, hazard, how to prevent, how to eliminate such things. My name is Hazel Panaligan. I am a student of Batangas State University. And for this video, I'm going to share 4 steps to determine the most effective measures to control workplace hazard and to minimize risk. If you are an employer in a company or industry, you are required to determine the hazards present in the workplace. And the hospitality industry is diverse. There are a number of main areas of risk that hospitality business owners should be aware. Managing health and safety hazard is the key to operational excellence in the workplace, regardless of its size. Where possible, you should always try to remove or eliminate hazards from the workplace. Like for example, by using a process or changing the way a job is done. If it's possible to eliminate the hazard, let me give you the 4 steps. Eliminating risk or hazard in hospitality industry. To improve safety in a facility, you need to understand and address the safety issues. Most industries follow the same steps. Step 1. Create a list. In order for us to easily identify the potential hazards present in a workplace, we have to make a list. What are we talking about? This may be chemical inventory, equipment inventory, a job task or list, or all of those things. Like for example, degreaser, work platform, and oven exhausted. Step 2. Identify the hazard. By identifying the hazard, we can find or record the possible hazard in our workplace. What's the problem? For each item on the list, identify the specific hazard involved. Like for example, toxic chemical, high ledge, and hot surface. Step 3. Evaluating risk. Risk evaluation is important. It attempts to define what the estimated risk actually means to people concerned with or affected by the risk. How bad is it? For each hazard, consider the following. How likely is the hazard to actually cause harm? For example, a offender people exposed to the hazard. When a person exposed, how likely is that exposure to lead to harmful event? When a harmful event happens, how difficult is it for a person to avoid harm? The combination of these ideas, that is the computation of the likelihood and the severity of an injury that results from a hazard, is called risk. For examples, the degreaser is used for hours every day, and contact with the liquid or fumes can cause irritation. This is a high likelihood. Brief exposure will only cause nausea. This is a low severity. But overall, this is a medium risk. Another example, workers only need to access the raised platform for annual inspections, and guards are in place, and this is a low likelihood. However, a fall could be deadly, and this is a high severity. But overall, this is a medium risk. And the last example is, the oven exhaust system is hard to reach, and work on it requires the oven to be looked out, and this is a low likelihood. The surfaces are only hot enough to cause first-degree burns, and this is a low severity, but overall, this is a very low risk. Step 4. Assign controls. Effective controls protect workers from the workplace hazard. It helps to avoid injuries, illnesses, and incidents. It also helps to minimize or eliminate safety and health risks and help employers provide with safe and healthful working conditions. What should be done? Once evaluated the risks involved with a hazard, assign protective steps or controls to reduce those risks. Number 1. Elimination. It is often cheaper and more practical to eliminate hazards at the design or planning stage of a product, process, or place used for work. In these early phases, there is a greater scope to design out hazards or incorporate risk control measures that are compatible with the original design and functional requirements. For example, stop using the solvent, lower equipment to ground level, switch to room temperature curing process. Number 2, substitution. If it is not reasonably practicable to eliminate the hazard and associated risk, you should minimize the risk. For example, use a less dangerous solvent, lower equipment to reduce height, and reduce oven temperature. Engineering controls. An engineering control is a control measure that is physical in nature, including a mechanical device or process. Physically change the equipment or work environment to separate workers from the hazard. For example, install a fume hood, add locking gate to platform to prevent access, and stand-off mesh around exhaust lines. Number 4, awareness. It is the rising of understanding with the workplace of what risks exist, their potential impacts, and how they are managed. Provide information to help workers understand the risks and act safely. For example, chemical safety training and container labels, fall protection training, and hot surface signs. Number 5, administrative controls. Administrative controls are work methods or procedures that are designed to minimize exposure to a hazard, create instruction or safe work procedures for expected conditions, establish appropriate procedures and safe work practices such as adhere to time limits for solvent use, require written approval to access platform, and run oven cycle only during off shifts. And lastly, personal protective equipment or PPE. Provide suitably and properly maintained PPE and ensure employers are trained in its proper use. Provide protective gear for worker to wear as a last line of defense. Personal protective equipment limit exposure to the harmful effects of a hazard, but only if workers wear and use the PPE correctly. Sure to wear gloves and goggles, fall arresting harness, and long sleeves. During each step, employers, managers, construction, and workers need to communicate and work together. Remember, hazard management is not a one-off event. It is an ongoing process.